Do you have hate in your heart for Israel?
Why does that matter?
As one human being to another, you're describing quite brilliantly that the contents of people's hearts don't matter as much as the policies and the contents of the courts and the laws and what actually is going on the streets in terms of actions. But this is also a human story,
Yeah.
and uh, I feel like at the core of the situation here is hate, is or maybe inability for some group of humans to see the humanity in another group of humans. And so it's important here to talk about the contents of hearts if we were to think about the long term future of this.
Yeah, I mean, I would be concerned actually if I didn't feel some kind of way in my heart. I would be concerned for my own dignity because the people who revolt, the people who are angry, the people who refuse to live under occupation know that they deserve better. People start revolutions not because of some kind of cultural phenomenon, not because of some kind of desire, but because they cannot breathe, because they cannot breathe, they cannot live. They are living under excruciating circumstances. Palestinians, I don't know how many Palestinians have interacted with, but we are some of the most wonderful people. I mean, not all of us. I think some of us are, insufferable, but most of us, you know, most of us, we're very hospitable. We're very hospitable. Even like in the early correspondence between the mayor of Jerusalem and Herzl, who wrote The Jewish State, the generosity through which the Palestinian mayor was talking to Herzl, who was plotting to take over his land, is impressive and at the same time, heart-wrenching. But I personally think there's a lot of dignity in negating your oppressor. And I think it would be ridiculous today if we like look back at Jim Crow, for example, and we ask the person who's lived under Jim Crow um, if they have hate in their heart for Jim Crow, as if that's not the absolutely logical and natural sentiment to feel.
In Rivka, you wrote, "My father told me anger is a luxury we cannot afford. Be composed, calm, still, laugh when they ask you, smile when they talk, answer them, educate them." So let me linger on this. Is there anger in there, in your heart? And does it cloud your judgment?
Does it cloud my judgment? I don't think so. I think our campaign to defend our homes was particularly successful because it was honest to what was happening on the ground, because it refused to follow the strategy that we have used in our advocacy before, where we shrink ourselves and we turn the other cheek and we try to convince American lawmakers and American diplomats and journalists of our humanity. Because we wait for their approval. I was 14 years old when I first flew to Congress to speak to Congress people and to speak to at the European Parliament. And at the time, I thought, wow, I must be such a brilliant 14-year-old for them to have me here. And looking back, I didn't know what I was talking about. I had horrendously broken English. Um, and I didn't have any talking points. And I came to realize that the reason why we send our kids with their PowerPoints to the Hill is because of the racism and the hatred that lingers inside the hearts of American politicians who refuse to sit on the table with Palestinian adults as equals. And so we resort to sending our kids who will not threaten and who will not, trigger the biases they have against Muslims and Arab people, which Palestinians, even though we're not all Muslim, are racialized as Muslim. And this is why we emphasize the deaths of women and children as though the deaths of our men does not count or does not matter. All of these things, I think the new generation of Palestinians is rebelling against. I think words like, I think it's loaded language, anger and angry and hate and so on and so forth, because it mischaracterizes people and it kind of delegitimizes them a little bit. I think the real anger is the bulldozer bulldozing through my house. I think the real anger is the 18-year-old soldier who refuses to see me as a human being and strip searches me every chance they get. That's where the real anger lies. And I'm quite honestly proud of, our unabashedness, and our refusal to like bow our heads or bury our heads in the sand. I think that's the only way forward.
So anger or whatever it is a fuel for action.
Absolutely. And it has been throughout history.